I'm Steve Hartman, and happy holidays to you and your family wherever you're celebrating. And welcome to our special Home for the Holidays. If you watched even just a little bit of news in 2021, you probably felt fear, division, and strife. But there were also moments of hope, people who inspired us and restored our faith in humanity. We told those stories on the road, and in the next hour, we'll show you some of our favorites. We're confident these stories will remind you of how much good really is out there. And we begin with some of our favorite stories about family, both traditional and unconventional. First up, a story about a son whose devotion to his mother knows no bounds. By his own admission, Dustin Vitale was a mama's boy.
Mom, you ready?
He cooked Gloria breakfast every morning.
That's my baby.
And thanked her for the privilege.
Thank you, Mom.
As we first reported back in March.
You're gonna make me cry.
Because Dustin had such devotion, after his mom was diagnosed with terminal bladder cancer, he decided to try to take her on the trip she always dreamed of, to see the pyramids in Egypt. With the whole family, 14 people. Never mind that Dustin works as a middle school teacher in Philadelphia and could never afford the $10,000 to fly everyone. He thought he could raise the cheddar by selling cheesesteaks. There was no way you were going to make enough money selling cheesesteaks out of your house.
Yeah, correct.
So given that, what was pushing you forward?
Just my mom, just a love for my mom.
And so, with his love and her recipe, Dustin started making sandwiches. Sandwiches so big no container could contain. He peddled them to friends and family.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Appreciate your support.
But those people must have told their friends and family too. Because almost immediately, cars started double parking outside his house.
Get your mom to Egypt.
I'm trying, man.
Next, word spread on social media.
Oh my God. That's good.
And before he knew it,
Oh, so good.
folks were lined up down the block. A food truck operator offered his services. And in just 6 weeks, Dustin raised all the money he needed and then some. $18,000.
The Pharaoh was coming.
The trip was in May.
Oh my.
The Egyptian government had seen our story and gave Gloria the Cleopatra treatment.
She repeated over and over that it was the best thing that she's ever done in her life.
Thank you.
And she died not long after you got back.
Yeah, came home and did hospice and passed.
Did the whole trip help you at all with the grieving?
Yes, we created so many new memories that will last forever.
And to make sure no one ever forgets her, Dustin wants to open a cheesesteak restaurant. He doesn't know where or when, he just knows the name. Gloria's. Since we first told that story, Dustin and his wife Haley have had a baby boy. They named him Glory. Dustin and his mom found a way to make the best of her final days in the face of tremendous adversity. And we found that same courage in our next story too, where strangers molded family out of tragedy. Take a look.
She's got one. Wine.
Fishermen are known for their fish stories.
Holy mackerel!
But the whopper that charter boat captains Mark Paisano and Paul Strasser are about to unspool is all too real.
That story, it just really throws a loop in me.
It was catastrophic. Imagining what she went through that day is unspeakable, really.
35 years ago, Paul and Mark were piloting a charter back from Catalina Island off the California coast when they came across a capsized boat and an orange life vest bobbing in the waves. Mark jumped in and pulled out 9-year-old Desiree Rodriguez, the only survivor. Her mother, father, sister, aunt, and uncle all perished. Desiree had been in the water 20 hours.
It was against all odds that she was still coherent and alive.
This was the last time Paul and Mark ever saw little Desiree, and they've always wondered about her.
Okay.
Which is why a podcaster named Phil Friedman invited the men on his show,
Mark Paisano.
Hi.
along with a surprise guest.
I'm going to let her introduce herself to you.
I'm Desiree.
The brims of their ball caps weren't nearly wide enough to hide the joy. 35 years not nearly long enough to erase the bond.
I'm so happy.
When I connected with them, they brought a lot of closure.
Since then, they have stayed in touch. And this week, Paul and Mark invited Desiree, the aunt who raised her, and the rest of her family to take a little trip. It was Desiree's first time back on the ocean, a journey that would bring her full circle.
This is basically the area right here.
Right back to where it all happened.
I'm kind of glad we can kind of come together today and kind of heal.
The bodies of her father, sister, and uncle were never recovered. This was their first memorial, a commemoration of the family she lost, but also a celebration of the guardian angels she gained.
Right, yeah. And that's how I feel. I hope to know you guys forever.
You know, everybody says God works in mysterious ways. I feel like, you know, let's find you.
Fishermen usually tell stories about the one that got away, but Paul and Mark will always cherish the one who got to stay. Desiree, Mark, and Paul told us they plan to get together over the holidays. I think it's really great to see them staying in touch. Over the course of my reporting career, decades, I've seen countless examples of families like that. People who may not be related by blood, but love each other just the same. We found one such example not long ago in Denver, Colorado, featuring the perfect messenger of that idea. You're going to love this one. Troy and Katie Hudson of Denver, Colorado say their wedding was going just as they planned, until the reception, when a member of the wedding party stole the show.
So it wasn't something that we were necessarily prepared emotionally to hear.
He's just like, I'm doing what I want to do, here we go, and he's passionate.
He's also 9.
I wasn't planning on making a speech for her, Katie, but I did it, I let it out, and I can't pause it.
In a minute, what Katie's little brother had to say. But first, what led him to this moment?
She's just the best sister I can ask for. No one can compare. You try one of these.
Gus is actually Katie's half-brother. They're separated by nearly 2 decades, yet close as conjoined. Which is why, when Katie got engaged, Gus says his feelings got complicated.
I was worried that she would not spend as much time with me as she used to. So it was really stressful in that way because I didn't want to lose her.
Fortunately, Gus says there's just something about a wedding ceremony.
It's just like, kind of like magic. And most of my worries about them just kind of went away.
Which brings us back to the reception.
And I am so happy that you guys got married today. And I know I might seem a little sad up here, but these are tears of joy. Katie, I love you so much, and I am so happy you gave me a brother-in-law.
As the holidays approach and far-off relatives begin to trickle in, Gus says his story should be a reminder to you to never let the word extended cloud the word family.
Don't let that separate you, because you deep down love them and they deep down love you.
What?
Toast-worthy advice.
Oh my God.
I deep down love that story and hope this year you get to celebrate with some of your far-off relatives. Coming up, some of our favorite stories about friendships, young and old, lifelong and newfound. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Home for the Holidays. I'm Steve Hartman. We're looking back at some of our favorite on-the-road stories from 2021. And right now we're going to look at some stories about friendship. Friendships are some of the most important relationships we have. They see us through our toughest times. Up next, the perfect example about some friends in Nashville who never realized how much this little tradition they had meant to them until it was almost lost. Every week, Andy Gullahorn goes for a walk. And every week, about 1.5 miles away, his friend Gabe Scott does the same thing at the same time. They walk toward each other, and when they meet, it's the weirdest thing. You see that? Clap, snap, high five. Then, often, they simply walk home. The whole exercise, their way of saying hi. You realize people have telephones and you can just call your buddy.
You're right, we should have been doing that this whole time. Yeah. And pick up the phone is great, but I've got a friend who literally will walk through the rain and the snow just to give me a high five. And I wish everybody could feel that feeling.
Andy and Gabe are musicians in Nashville. They met at a concert in 2000 and became friends. They got together on occasion, but not as often as they would have liked. So they invented this bit of silliness 7 years ago as a way of guaranteeing they see each other at least once a week.
So this is the high five journal.
Andy has a log of every encounter, including the one that was nearly their last.
It was high five number 312.
Gabe was hospitalized with a severe form of encephalitis. It caused his brain to swell and robbed him of his past.
I pretty much forgot my life.
Your whole life?
Yeah.
And that's when his buddy Andy, now a virtual stranger, came to visit.
I said, well, Gabe, this is going to sound really weird, but I need you to do something for me. Give me a high five. And he was like, okay.
When the moment happened, my body just did what it's been doing for years. Clap, snap, high five.
That was in September. Since then, a lot of his memories have returned, but few more cherished than this silly tradition, which doesn't seem quite so silly anymore.
It's really special to have a memory of something. To have something that's this consistent in my life, that means this much.
Andy even wrote a song about their ritual.
So take a walk with me on Monday morning.
It's a reminder that going out of your way for someone is still the straightest path to an everlasting friendship.
Knowing the small things matter. It's really no small thing.
There really are no small things when it comes to friendship. We found another story along this theme down in Arkansas about a friendship that blossomed out of sorrow. This is about a young girl who on her darkest day found kindness in a stranger and made a huge difference. Take a look. According to her mother, Lacey, 6-year-old Raylyn Nast of Fort Smith, Arkansas, has always been a daddy's girl.
She was very proud of her dad. She always wanted to introduce her dad to just about anybody.
Until a couple weeks ago, when her father, Davy, died of colon cancer. He was just 41, and Raylyn was just devastated.
It was a cry that was pure heartbreak.
Enter Emily Beineman, who happened to be jogging with her dog Blue the day of the visitation. She was running past the funeral home when all of a sudden she heard a tiny voice call out from the chapel steps.
She was like, may I pet your puppy? And I was like, yeah, like, of course, like, as long as your parents don't mind.
That's what you said to her?
Yeah.
Not knowing?
Not knowing, yeah.
Raylyn explained that her dad was lying inside, gave Blue a huge hug, and then gave Emily a stunning invitation.
I asked her if she wanted to come in and see my dad.
That's right. This still proud daughter invited that random jogger to meet her father. Emily was hardly dressed for a funeral, and she knew just walking in the door would cause a scene. But she also knew this was the last time that little girl would be able to introduce her daddy to anyone. So she followed her gut and followed Raylyn down the aisle.
Everyone was kind of looking around like, where did she come from? And she came in right next to Ray, like they'd known each other for so long. There was that connection there.
How could two people bond so quickly?
She helped me feel better.
Raylyn says it should be no mystery.
By her kindness.
Raylyn and Emily got together again this week and plan to stay friends forever.
Sweet.
Of course, no one will ever replace her dad. But Raylyn is clearly on the path to a better place.
Yes.
Thanks to the kindness of a stranger.
Oh, those are good kisses.
And the healing power of a warm puppy. It's amazing how much change can happen just by treating people with kindness. And it doesn't take much. Even just the tiniest thing can make a difference. Take our next story from Kansas. This one shows us what being a good neighbor is all about. Although her dancing days are done, Phyllis Brinkerhoff of Prairie Village, Kansas says she's not too old to appreciate a sick beat. In fact, Mrs. B, as she's known in the neighborhood, is obsessed with one dance song in particular.
It's just a fun, joyous song.
You put your right arm in.
The Hokey Pokey. And you know how when you love a song, you want your friends to love it too? Well, that's why Mrs. B gave her neighbor, Melanie Mendries, a Hokey Pokey CD and started talking about the song constantly.
I can see her name pop up on my phone, and I just thought, oh, it's the Hokey Pokey.
Hi, this is Phyllis.
Mrs. B left dozens of messages,
I really do need to talk to you.
urgently pleading her case.
CD I gave you, are you hooked on it yet?
And I just would always say, not quite yet.
Melanie's reluctance baffled Mrs. B. You know, most people don't care really at all for the Hokey Pokey.
Really?
Really?
I find that very amazing.
Do you? Still, she knew her crusade was all but lost. Then one day, Mrs. B happened to mention that her birthday was coming up, her 93rd. And when Melanie heard that, she decided to embrace what she'd been resisting. Or to put it in Hokey Pokey parlance, she put her whole self in.
We made copies of the invitation, we rolled them in little scrolls, and we wrapped ribbons around them and traipsed up and down the street.
You put your whole self in, you put your whole self out.
It was a Hokey Pokey flash mob.
Shake it all about.
The smile on her face was so big. It doesn't take that much to make someone's day. And I think we could all do a little more of it.
Because that's what it's all about. What a wonderful community they have there. And Mrs. B certainly proves there is no age limit on having fun. We have one more story to share with you about friendship. This one comes from Florida. And it's about how friends can also be your greatest source of inspiration, especially when that friend is also your superhero. For 14-year-old Caleb Pruitt of Jacksonville, Florida, who has Down syndrome, exercising anything other than his thumbs was never a passion. He could barely cross a pool, couldn't ride a bike without help, and saw the treadmill as little more than a novelty. Karen is his mom. So triathlon wasn't on your list of things for Caleb to do?
It was not on our list, no.
At least, not until Caleb met 21-year-old Chris Nikich. Did you like him when you met him?
Yes, I did.
What did you like about him?
Super cool.
Super cool, he said. And you can see why. Last year, Chris competed in that grueling 140-mile swimming, biking, and running race known as the Ironman. The first person with Down syndrome to ever cross the finish line.
If there was a poster with Chris on it, it would be in Caleb's room.
But what Chris did next was even more Herculean. He took this young fan under his wing, became a mentor, worked out with him, and planted a dream.
Just the fact that he was so warm and inspiring helped Caleb realize that these are things that I could do too.
Can and did.
Go, Caleb!
Last weekend, Caleb finished his first mini triathlon. He is believed to be the youngest person with Down syndrome to ever do so.
I've been selected.
He also received an invitation to compete on Florida's Special Olympics triathlon team. The same team Chris is on. Do you want to be like Chris?
Yes.
You know what?
What?
I think you are like Chris.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Yes!
Is that like the best compliment you've ever received?
Oh, yes.
Heroes come in many different shapes, sizes, and abilities, but they all have the same superpower: to lift the hopes of others. Since we first told that story, Caleb has completed 5 more triathlons, and Chris ran in the New York City Marathon. So something tells us 2022 has a lot more in store for that dynamic duo. Coming up next, some stories about people giving back to their communities and making a huge difference. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm Steve Hartman. Thanks for sticking with me. We're looking at some of our favorite on-the-road stories from 2021. You know, every week we try to find extraordinary stories about ordinary Americans, people who are not necessarily on the front page of the newspaper, but sure as heck deserve to be. And our search often leads us to people who give back to their communities in remarkable ways. Like a group of dads we found who saw a problem in their community and united to fix it.
Not many good news stories begin in such a bad news way. It happened last month here at Southwood High School in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Plagued with violence.
Over the course of 3 days,
Another fight.
23 students arrested for fighting.
Massive police response.
But strangely, there hasn't been another incident since. Perhaps in part because of this most unusual crisis intervention team.
Nobody here has a degree in school counseling. No majors in criminal justice. No. Your qualifications are?
Well, Dad, we decided the best people who can take care of our kids are who? Are us.
So Michael Lafitte started Dads on Duty.
We're out doing what we do for our babies.
A group of about 40 Southwood dads who now hang out at the school in shifts.
Let's go.
Today, any negative energy that enters the building has to run a gauntlet of good parenting.
What's going on, buddy? You moving fast. I like that horse.
I immediately felt a form of safety.
We stopped fighting, people started going to class.
How could that be?
You ever heard of a look?
A look? Dads have the power to do that?
Yes. Not many people know it, but yes.
Let's go, let's go.
But it's not just the firm stares and stern warnings.
Let's make it to class, my son.
It's also the dad jokes.
They just make funny jokes like, oh, hey, your student's untied, but it's really not untied.
And they hate it. They're so embarrassed by it.
And it's that perfect mix of tough love and gentle ribbing that dads do so well that has helped transform this school.
The school has really just been like happy and you can feel it.
Which is why the dads plan to keep coming to Southwood indefinitely.
Because not everybody has the father figure at home.
Or a male, period, in their life.
So just to be here makes a big difference.
Do you think you stumbled onto something here?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'd like to start chapters of Dads on Duty throughout Louisiana.
What's up, baby boy?
And hope to eventually take on the country.
All right.
Without a fight.
After that story first aired, it went viral. It was viewed more than 50 million times on social media. And across the country, dozens of school districts are now copying their model. If you'd like to get involved, you can reach the dads at dadsondutyyusa@gmail.com. Now, a lot of us aging dads, we look forward to retirement, where we can kick back and relax. But I don't think the word relax is in this next guy's vocabulary. In fact, this man truly defines what it means to live a life of service.
If anyone has earned a coffee break, it's 63-year-old Mike Mason of Midlothian, Virginia. Mike served his country, first as a captain in the Marines.
Mike Mason from the FBI.
And later as the number 4 man at the FBI.
Good afternoon.
Mike left the Bureau in 2007, went on to work as an executive at a Fortune 500 company, and then the chief operating officer of this rocking chair. But Mike says retirement did not sit well with him.
I still had a mind, and I still had things I thought I was capable of doing.
But if Mike was going to start a new chapter, he knew it would have to be something really important, a job with a big payout, worthy of his time. So in the end, the choice was clear.
How you doing?
Hi.
From top of the FBI
Doing great.
to head of the BUS, Mike Mason may be the most overqualified school bus driver in America.
When I gave them my resume, I actually got called by a very senior person in the county, and he said, just checking.
Did you mean to apply for this job?
Why do you want to be a bus driver? And I told him.
Mike had heard the Chesterfield County Public School District was down 125 drivers, part of a national crisis. In fact, more than half the school districts in America are reporting severe driver shortages. So Mike stepped up and went all in. I mean, this guy actually waxes his bus.
Why? Because it's just how I roll.
This is the Marines coming back.
It is. But I think this is important work. I do.
Do you sincerely believe that what you're doing today is as important as what you were doing at the FBI?
I do. I think in our society, we need to get next to the idea that there are no unimportant jobs. I mean, what could be more important than the attention we pay to our education system?
So you continue to advance in your career?
That's exactly right. I'm paid a lot less, but I continue to advance in my career. Yes, indeed.
As for the salary, Mike says he already donated all of what he expects to make this year, more than $30,000 to various charities. But of course, the much bigger gift is far less tangible. Mike Mason had climbed to the highest level,
According to the indictment,
but by stepping down the ladder, he has shown true leadership. Leadership
All right, see you later.
by example.
When Mike Mason recognized a need, he didn't hesitate to help. Just a really selfless attitude. We saw that same attitude in the woman you're about to meet next. We found her down in the bayou of Louisiana after Hurricane Ida. Her hometown of Houma was devastated by high winds that took out the power lines and knocked out power to thousands. So when the linemen marched in, so did her army of volunteers.
After Hurricane Ida, linemen from across the country came here to southern Louisiana to restore power and found an angel in the flood.
Hot lunch!
A woman actually named Angel Flood.
We got gumbo, y'all!
I just knew it from the beginning. I was like, we've got to feed these people.
So, under her own blue tarped roof, Angel began prepping lunch for the linemen working in and around Houma, Louisiana. Couldn't stand the thought of them eating cold, processed food.
There was no restaurants.
Yeah, nothing in Houma was open. No power, no water.
So if you wanted food, came to you.
Came to the women of Louisiana. Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Somebody's here.
It's not just Angel.
Come in.
Not by a long shot.
Good morning. We turning and burning.
Turning and burning.
While we were there, seemed every 15 minutes someone else showed up with a side dish. A scene that repeats daily here in Houma and across Louisiana.
It's good?
It's good.
Okay.
On this Facebook group, we found thousands of women and men helping the linemen in every parish affected by the storm. They've been preparing meals, offering rooms, even doing laundry.
It's like checking your chickens and you got an egg.
Angel tells the men to leave their dirty clothes on the porch and has them fluffed and folded by morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For linemen like Jared Colley of Winter Garden, Florida,
Gumbo,
this treatment is unbelievable.
potato salad.
They have been an absolute godsend to us.
Y'all want drinks?
I've been on a lot of storms. I've been doing this for quite some time. We've never been treated this good before.
Not like this. That's pretty cool.
But Angel says it's the least she can do.
Keep working hard.
These guys put in 16-hour days, 7 days a week, away from their families.
We love y'all.
And in talking to them, Angel has learned it's rarely about the money. It's about duty.
If you're a lineman and you don't take a call to go on storm, is what they call it, it's like being in the Army and turning down deployment.
So in Louisiana, they're now recognizing linemen for the heroes that they are.
They're helping us to rebuild the community that we love so much.
And that's how you restore the power of gratitude.
The linemen are all home now, but I bet you they miss that Cajun cooking. When we come back, stories about the military community, from veterans of World War II to active members, service and sacrifice, when we return. Welcome back. I'm Steve Hartman. We're showing some of our favorite stories from the year past. And in this section, we're going to show some of our favorite stories focusing on the military community. First up, it's not uncommon to thank a veteran for their service. But have you ever wondered how much impact that thank you really has? Turns out it can be quite a lot.
Inside the Vitalia Senior Residences in Strongsville, Ohio, 95-year-old Frank Grassberger sits on a treasure. Literally sits. In fact, Frank says, other than his wife Dolores, almost nothing matters more to him than this note, which he carries everywhere.
I'd never be without it.
Why did it matter so much that you have it with you all the time?
Because it's something that somebody thought of me that much.
When he has that letter with him, he has a feeling of faith and trust and love.
To understand how a letter can do all that, you first need to know that Frank is a World War II veteran. And back in 2009, a third grader wrote to thank him for his service. If it wasn't for you, we would never have freedom. I'm so happy you made sacrifices. Your friend, Deshauna Priest. To Frank, that simple thank you came to symbolize a life well served.
I'm tickled to death that I have a letter like this.
He wanted to thank the author.
We never could find her. He says, before I close my eyes, I have to find her. I have to find her.
Just about everyone who works here was well aware of Frank's attachment to that letter and his decade-long desire to find the little girl who wrote it. So the staff did some sleuthing. And lo and behold,
Deshauna is now 21. She vividly remembers writing the letter as a school assignment because she so admired people in uniform.
Just like, wow. Like,
I get to write to a veteran.
Yeah.
so it was like an honor.
Yeah.
An honor that continued.
So here she is.
When Deshauna surprised Frank in her National Guard uniform.
Honest to God, oh, I love you so much. You can't imagine the feeling I had when she stood next to me. It just took my breath away, it really did.
I thought, where's his heart pills? Because I thought, oh, this is it. This is the big one.
I'm telling you, this is a godsend. It really is.
Fortunately, Frank's heart only swelled and may never return to its original size.
So this is the beginning of something.
Yeah. Friendship. Family, not friendship.
There's love there, deep down in the heart. She's like my third daughter. She really is.
It started with a lot of love and affection, and it's ending the same way.
Who knew a simple thank you could make a life complete?
After that story aired, we heard Frank and Dolores got a lot of mail. So maybe over the holidays, if you have a minute, you might want to write a letter to a veteran you know or don't know. No telling how much it might be appreciated. In Virginia, we found another woman very grateful for people in uniform, specifically one group of Marines who answered her prayer.
Traffic and weather on the 8th.
It was a deceptively beautiful morning in the nation's capital.
Severe weather is not expected today.
But by that afternoon, several inches of heavy rain had fallen in parts of the district, and no one was caught more off guard that September day than Virginia Waller of Hagerstown, Maryland.
Virginia was coming down this exit ramp when she ran headlong into a flash flood. Hit the water with such force it tore off her license plate. Water so deep, her car wouldn't budge.
It was scary.
Had you ever felt that scared before?
No, I thought I could die.
Virginia is a woman of faith, but she says she's never prayed harder than she did at that moment.
Clinging on to the hope that God heard me.
A minute passed.
You had to think you were seeing things.
Yeah, for a second, it was like, this is real. So I had to take my phone out and start recording it.
So cool!
What Virginia saw was the next best thing to the hand of God.
The Marines are gonna help us!
Marines in dress blues who seemed to appear out of nowhere.
Thank you so much!
Believe it or not, I've actually met these same men before and can personally vouch for their strength of character and their strength. Back in 2019, we did a story on this elite group known as the Bodybearers. Their mission here at Arlington Cemetery is to shoulder the burden of American grief, literally. Men so humble in their charge, they rarely do interviews, and were especially reluctant to talk about rescuing Virginia that day.
Yeah, we had to fight to get you on camera.
Yeah, well.
But they sat for me because they thought there could be a lesson in this.
The more I thought about it, I was like, well, this is kind of a platform to tell people to be the one to get out of your car. Like, that's got to be the takeaway.
In other words, it should be the motto of all Americans, to leave no man behind. Not in a war, not in a flood, not anywhere, in any way.
Oh my God. They didn't ask who we were. They just helped selflessly. And they didn't leave us behind that day.
And there's the first push in this American rescue plan.
This is the most American thing ever. Thank you.
Our next story features someone with that same drive and tenacity to do the right thing. She could have given up when the going got tough, but she forged ahead and found tremendous gratitude on the other side. Take a look.
Donna Parker is on the last leg of a journey to find the rightful owner of these Army uniforms. A journey that began more than 2 years ago at the bottom of this dumpster.
These are Army suits. Whose are these? Why are they in the trash?
So this became an obsession?
It did, for a very long time.
All she had to go on was a common last name, Mackenzie. But Donna researched, posted on social media, even set up tables at festivals around her home in Lexington, Kentucky, hoping someone might know who these belonged to. And eventually, Donna did get the full name.
And when I did, his obituary was the first thing that came up. And it hit me like it would a family member.
Back in 2018, Sergeant Keith Mackenzie, who had survived 2 deployments to Afghanistan, took his own life. He'd been diagnosed with PTSD. Marriage was crumbling, car repossessed, which is actually how the uniform ended up in the dumpster. This wasn't at all the answer Donna was hoping to find, but it made returning that uniform more important than ever.
Somebody may have wanted them.
You could have never guessed how much they were wanted.
No.
1,000 miles away in Waco, Texas, Keith Mackenzie Jr., who was left to shag his own fly balls, still feels some bitterness toward his father. But that military service, that's a part of his dad he holds on to dearly, and literally.
I'd just sit there and hold the dog tags. For a good while, I never took them off, since that's kind of all we had.
That was all he had, until his mother, Crystal, got a phone call from a stranger.
She answered a prayer that I didn't know I was praying for. Some faith that there's people out there that care.
Crystal and her daughter, Kayla, knew Donna was coming.
Howdy.
But it was a surprise to Keith.
I brought these for you, all the way from Kentucky. I've been looking for y'all for a long time.
Thank you.
Donna Parker set out to return a uniform.
I don't think you understand how much this really means to all of us.
But what she really returned to this family was hope.
That uniform meant so much to Keith's family because it was a physical memento of his military service. But it meant even more that someone went to all the trouble. A uniform can represent so much more than the sum of its seams. For World War II veteran Joseph Hall, his uniform represented a link to the past, and more importantly, the people in it.
It was just another day at Causeway Alterations in Dunedin, Florida, when out of the blue, this elderly man walked in and asked if someone could make him a Navy uniform.
Why does a 97-year-old need a Navy uniform?
I love the uniform. I love my country, and I'm so happy I was able to serve.
This you?
It's me, yeah.
Joe Hall served in World War II as a Navy petty officer, first class.
Is that your ship?
Yeah.
He was on a destroyer escort, where he made some of the best friends of his life and lost a few too. They're all gone now, which is why Joe wanted that uniform, for when he sees them again. Susan Williams is the seamstress who waited on him.
I've made everything from underwear to wedding dresses. But to have a World War II veteran come in and say, I want to be buried in my uniform. It was like, this man is not leaving this store without me making this uniform because it's the most important thing I'll ever do in my life. And it became a strong obsession of mine to make it right.
For the next 3 weeks, Susan poured herself into this project, binding every seam, satin-lined cuffs, buttonholes by hand. She spent at least 100 hours.
I love this.
And charged almost nothing.
Oh, beautiful.
Joe actually got his uniform a few months ago, but came back in to try it on again at our request. He hardly seemed bothered.
I feel like I'm back in the service.
In fact, even though he wanted this for his death, you get the sense that now it's what he lives for.
Look at that. Can't beat it, right?
Right.
I wanted to be with my friends, be part of them. And this uniform kind of brings them close to me, you know.
They say the suit makes the man, but not in this case. Joe Hall was a loyal friend 7 decades before he got these dress blues. He just needed someone to sew his heart to his sleeve for that long-awaited
It's wonderful.
reunion.
You've done a wonderful job.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
After we first told that story, Joe Hall got invited to several veterans events and hopes to have many more opportunities to put the suit on again before he sees his old buddies. Up next, some of our favorite stories about senior citizens who have nothing senior about them. Stay with us. Welcome back to Home for the Holidays. The pandemic was especially hard on the elderly. Many were in lockdown, forced to see friends and family through windows and video chats. Fortunately, those days are mostly over. But in the middle of it all, we met one couple whose romance could not be quarantined.
For 95-year-old John Schultz, the best thing to come out of this pandemic is coming down the aisle. John's brand new bride, Joy Morrow Knowlton, is also 95, and together they're proving you're never too old to make a lifetime commitment.
Until death do us part.
We first met John and Joy in March, parked along the banks of the Hudson River in Kingston, New York. Parked in the slang sense.
Wait a minute, getting your glasses up.
Fortunately, their PDA
That's it.
is mostly
For the week.
LOL.
He's a lot of baloney.
John and Joy were each widowed, twice, but determined to find love again, which wasn't easy. Before getting vaccinated, they had to do most of their dating in a bubble.
She was worth it. It was a pain in the neck, though.
Perseverance.
Pete Schultz is John's son.
They would call every day. They'd find a way to get together, but they did whatever it took.
You haven't held hands with me all day, by the way.
Hold my hand.
What it took, they say, was a return to simple pleasures, like long drives to nowhere, batting balloons around the house, and a whole lot of selflessness.
She bought me a walker.
She bought you a walker?
$159, I think.
Whoa.
I told you she had money. She did have it, so she bought my walker.
Not to be outdone, John bought her a little something, too.
I declare you husband and wife.
For many of us, June weddings will mark a reemergence.
You may kiss your bride.
A bright bloom after a dark winter, and a proclamation that young love is officially out of lockdown.
And we wish them many happy years together. John and Joy showed us you're never too old to fall in love. But our next character proves you're never too old to do what you love. In fact, it might even be the fountain of youth.
At 78, Max Oliver is an old salt. But to his crewmate on this lobster boat, Max is but a child. Her child. Virginia Oliver is 101, Maine's oldest lobster fisherman. 3 days a week, May through November, you can find Virginia out here on Penobscot Bay, balancing on her sea legs,
Let it bite you.
tackling one of the most hazardous jobs in the country.
Have they ever gotten you?
Of course.
Not long ago, she got cut so badly, she needed 7 stitches.
And the doctor said to me, "What are you out there lobstering for?"
Good question.
And I said, "Because I want to."
I think he might have thought that was a little too dangerous for somebody of your
Well,
age.
I don't care what he thought.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
Virginia has been lobstering on and off since the age of 7. She used to go out with her father. It was man's work then, not another girl in sight. But 94 years later, she is the master of the sea. After Max hauls in the traps, Virginia measures the lobsters,
Don't go on.
tosses out the small ones,
Gonna throw it away.
and then tames the claws of the keepers.
Who's the boss out there?
I am.
Okay. So let's say he didn't want to go out one day. He's too tired. No?
Now, I won't put up that stuff.
Virginia says she expects nothing of her son that she wouldn't do herself. Unfortunately for her son.
How many days have you called in sick in the last year?
No.
She don't give up.
What would she say if you said, I'm ready to retire?
You better have something wrong with you.
You better have something wrong with you.
As for Virginia's retirement date, she says you'll find that one place and one place only, etched on her tombstone.
When I die.
When you die.
Yeah.
In other words, no time soon.
And maybe no surprise here, Virginia kept at that all lobster season long. As you can imagine, we get a lot of pitches at On the Road to do stories about senior citizens doing extraordinary things. So the bar for approval has to be really high. Fortunately, this next guy clears it by at least a few inches. Take a look.
Here at the Texas Express pole vaulting gym near Dallas, just about every kid jumps to the same conclusion. First time they see 82-year-old Don Ison walk in the door.
And I thought, oh, maybe he's like someone's grandfather or something. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Which soon leads to the second universal reaction.
Wow, is he okay? I thought.
What he does is absolutely insane.
Don Ison is the nation's top pole vaulter in his age group.
National champion.
And pretty much the only pole vaulter in his age group.
I've got buckets of
them.
He picked up the sport for a second time at age 66.
This is when you started?
5 decades after an unremarkable high school career.
So you weren't even that good to begin with.
Right.
So at 66, you say, I want to relive this.
Yeah.
Mediocrity.
I'll try this again.
Why?
It's fun. It's like going to high school again with nothing to study.
Nothing to study but the physics of gravitational potential energy and pain management.
That's a jump right there.
But Don says it's well worth the aches.
It's a rush, exhilaration when you clear a bar.
At a meet last year, Don cleared 9 feet 1 inch. No octogenarian had ever done such a thing. And then, just moments later, set another record. Oldest man to be a human centrifuge. And Don says he's not done setting records. In fact, he told me he plans to keep fit and keep at this until he's 6 feet under, which by my calculation is still about 15 feet away.
Okay, time now for another quick break. But after this, our perennial favorite, story that never gets old. Secret Santa handing out kindness in the form of $100 bills. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back to Home for the Holidays. We're going to end with our annual Secret Santa story. But first, I want to give you a little background, explain how this started. About 50 years ago, a homeless man walked into the Dixie Diner in Houston, Mississippi. His plan was to order the most expensive breakfast on the menu and then leave without paying. But the owner of the diner, a guy named Ted Horn, he recognized what was about to happen. So he snuck up behind the man, reached down to the floor, had $20 in the palm of his hand, gave it to the man, said, "I think you dropped this." He was trying to preserve his dignity. But the homeless man, he thought, wow, this is my lucky day. Paid for his bill and left. A few minutes later, He started to realize what really happened, got emotional, and vowed right then and there, if he ever made it big, if he ever became rich, he would pay it forward. And he did become rich. He became a millionaire. He started this tradition, gave away $100 bills to random strangers every holiday season. Over the course of his lifetime, he gave away $1 million worth of $100 bills. And when he passed, a new Secret Santa took over. He too has given away about $1 million. Today, the tradition continues. We followed him this year to Arizona for a really wonderful sleigh ride. Enjoy.
About as far from the North Pole as you can get, at the edge of the Sonoran Desert, Secret Santa is about to do some of his best work ever.
This is something I've had in my heart for years.
Here, on the San Carlos Apache tribal lands.
Hi. I've always felt inside my soul a spiritual connection with the Native American.
And so, after a blessing from the medicine man and a briefing for his elf recruits,
today you're on the front lines of kindness.
This anonymous wealthy businessman set out to give away $30,000 in $100 bills
Don't be scared.
to random strangers.
Merry Christmas to you.
Oh my God.
And boy, was it welcome.
That's 400 Secret Santa dollars.
Nearly half the people who live on this Arizona tribal land live below the poverty line.
It's going to put more food on the table, more for my family to eat.
I had no food really.
Elijah Cook says he knows hunger,
Not much.
but still plans to give away his money.
I think it goes to my father. He needs it more.
This is for you.
After getting her gift, Velma Wilson said she could finally get her grandchildren what they've been begging for. Cat litter. And yet, even here,
I want to give you this.
where the need is so great, Secret Santa says it's not about the money. It's never about the money.
Oh my goodness.
Whether you're Native American, African American, Christian American, left American, right American, kindness is that common language between us all.
And maybe that's why most people didn't cry when they got their bills. But when he made them feel like $1 million,
Do you know how special you are?
That's when the joy came.
You are a beautiful spirit.
That's when the tears rolled.
You're an example to every mom. You're amazing.
Nelvina Cobb got $400, but valued those comments much more.
Just to hear that, it feels good. That helped me a lot.
This holiday season, few of us will have the resources to give like this. But Santa says we can all make an equal impact using our wealth of words.
You're an incredible, incredible grandma.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us for our Home for the Holidays special. We sincerely hope that these stories remind you of all the good that still exists in America. And if you like what you saw here, be sure and join us every Friday night on the CBS Evening News for our On the Road segment. Until then, from all of us at CBS News, Happy New Year.